And welcome to the Daily Space Weather. I'm your host, Dan, aka Smash-O-Mash, welcoming our favorite space weather enthusiasts, our viewers, to the channel, to the video, to the most detailed imagery of the sun you'll find anywhere in the world, the Daily Space Weather, the most comprehensive known to exist. We've got some CMEs to cover for sure. We'll be talking about where they're headed, and lots more. Here's the Northern Hemisphere. And thanks for stargazing with us. Huge prominence there in the Northeast. Southern Hemisphere features a huge coronal hole, rotating it down into the southwest. The geomagnetic storm forecast was a little bit over forecasted, but that's typically what happens in the realm of meteorology. We have a tendency to over forecast as opposed to under forecast, well, because of the ramifications, of course. We do have some umbral growth and migration happening with this sunspot group right here. You can see some magnetic field movement happening there. And there it is on the SDO intensity gram. That's yesterday plus today. New sunspot group formed behind this group down here, right there. It looks like an alpha class sunspot popped up. That'll be at least one more named group today. And by the way, if you enjoy the content, if you'd like to see it continue to exist, remain publicly visible and free for all to view, become a member of the Smash Team at smashomash.com/Smash Team. We replaced Patreon with our own superior website. Shout out to Smash staff for all of her hard work. You can find our links there as well. Smashomash.com/Smash Team, our own subscription services site. Join at the gold or silver level if you want to pay us a few dollars per month. Join at the bronze level if you are unable or unwilling to do so. Make sure you follow us on Twitter also, which, by the way, is not fixed in any stretch of the imagination. Not fixed at all. The shadow bans continue. There are accounts that are deboosted. In fact, we have been losing followers since your benevolent genius took over the platform. We're now down to 334 followers on Twitter. A completely broken site which promotes already famous, parroted, stale ideas by people that are already ultra rich and famous, and it deboosts people like you. You can also follow us on Instagram, another utterly broken platform. Yes, Instagram. It barely functions. See our latest Instagram posts at instagram.com/smashomash. And let's get back to some geophysics stuff. It's the volcano rundown featuring Sakurajima producing an 8,000-foot ash plume as it exploded. Semeru, 13,000-foot ash plume from Semeru. I believe that is an uptick from the Indonesian volcano. Dakono on Halmahera exploding. Flight level 070 over Dakono. Flight level 200 as Popocatépetl explodes in central Mexico. Headed down to South Central America, we see Fuego in Guatemala exploding. 16,000-foot ash plume. Revenador exploding in Ecuador, 17,000-foot ash plume, and continuous emissions from Sabancaya are a reminder to not pole vault the caldera. Please don't pole vault the caldera. Next, talking about global seismicity here. And things have been somewhat calm here over the past 24 hours. This is the 90-day bar graph from volcanodiscovery.com. And let's just scroll up the list here. No 6+ magnitude quakes. There have been a number in the 5 range, like that 5.1 at Indonesia, which came in at 13:49 yesterday, Universal Time. A little swarm there around the Fiji Islands. Also, there was a 5.5 near Greece. Did you ever hear an echo? Well, I certainly have. Hopefully that won't be a foreshock for a larger quake. In the Sea of Crete, just north of the Isle of Crete, is where that 5.5 occurred. Also a 4.8 there at the Mid-Atlantic Ridge near the Azores, a 5.2 at Japan, and a 5.6 was the largest quake of the past 24. That one occurred at Indonesia. And let's get back to space. So here's the zoomed out view that we showed you, the northern and southern hemispheres in close-up in these wavelengths. And this is a great opportunity to show you the differences between 193 and 304 angstroms. 304 angstroms, obviously much more massive particle, or, well, 193 angstroms, much more massive particles than 304, as that's ionized iron. 304 is helium. And when we subtract the 193 angstroms, you'll see the extended corona disappear. Check it out. There you go. There it is without 193 angstroms. And there it is with 93 angstroms, 193 angstroms. You see that extended corona not showing up in the helium only. We'll also show 171 angstroms, which shows the lower corona. That is the last 24 hours of the closest star. The 10.7 centimeter radial flux is now at 119 solar flux units. There's the 1-year graph to put it in context. 119 is the F107, the 10.7 centimeter radial flux number. That 1-year chart should put it in context for you. The red line is the sunspot number. The black line is the radial flux. Space Weather Enthusiast dashboard. Forecasting a little bit of geomagnetic unrest on November 22nd, tomorrow, at about 1500 Universal Time. And we're expecting some geomagnetic unrest conditions late in the day on the 23rd, maybe early in the day on the 24th. Because of a CME strike. We'll get to it later in the video. First, the last 4 hours of Earth's magnetic moment from space. We show it daily because it's not accessible in archival format. Just the last 4 hours. It's modeling magnetohydrodynamic pressure based on the Space Weather Modeling Framework dataset. You can download that software if you like. That's the last 4 hours of Earth's magnetic moment from space. Here's Earth's magnetic moment from the ground. Also the last 4 hours. And things have been a little bit more calm here than forecasted. That southern coronal hole turned out to be a little bit on the weak side. And drop us a line on Twitter. If you've noticed any good auroral imagery, we will share that, retweet it, etc. Drop us a line if you're able to see our account at twitter.com/smashamash. I'm not sure how deboosted it is nowadays, but of course, the big tech platform continues to mislead investors, users, advertisers, etc. Continuing on to the KP index here, we've got a KP of 2.33 rather. Just a low-level increase above KP2 there. It's geomagnetic calm conditions. Never made it into geomagnetic storm from that coronal hole high-speed stream. It has been weak. The highest we saw was about 460 kilometers per second for the speed. Current conditions are about 415 kilometers per second. Solar wind density about 9.5 protons per cubic centimeter. Getting into magnetic data, there is the GOES 16 and GOES 17 magnetometer readings for the past 3 days from their geosynchronous near equatorial orbits. They're at about 22,500 miles of altitude. And you can see there indeed the, the GOES 16 doing some maneuvers there, creating some arc jet moments as its thrusters send plasma into the local area, which could affect the magnetometers. Next, we'll look at the heliospheric current sheet. Important thing to note here is that the north solar polar field still remains partially fixated at the north heliographic pole. You can see some of it right there. An indication that solar cycle 25 is still less than halfway to solar maximum. We're nowhere near solar maximum. That pole has to leave, this magnetism has to leave the North Pole and find itself all the way at the South Pole before we can call this solar cycle finished. In other words, it's got a long way to go. Here's our line of sight field plot. We've got a North Pole current sheet. At the moment, of course, Earth is in one, as you can see here in this top view ecliptic plane field plot imagery. There's our line of sight plot, and we've got North Pole oriented coronal holes rotating in here, including that polar one that I just talked about. And let's move to the SDO imagery. So the polarity line is right here, folks. This is South Pole. These are North Pole, if you're wondering. And again, you should be able to tell that from this imagery right here. Green for north, red for south. And we're about to go to sunspots. But first, help us out with clicks. If you haven't been to smashomash.com, we welcome you to the Neo Renaissance. In 2019, a crack YouTube unit was sent to social media prison for a crime we didn't commit. We promptly escaped a maximum security social media stockade of the internet underground, where we survive as producers of fortune. If you have a problem, if no one else can help, and if you can find the content, maybe you can hire the Smash team. You can certainly visit the website, though. Since you're viewing the video on the internet, I'll bet you're able to visit a URL. Try smashomash.com. Help us out with clicks. Maybe help yourself out with a SureMed membership. You'll find links below the video as well as on the homepage to that. It's not insurance. It's an association membership with the American Better Health Organization, which will give you all sorts of discounts and incentives to stay up to date with your health needs. You can even add accident, critical illness insurance, and all kinds of other dental and vision type insurance policies. Those are group policies. The SureMed membership itself is just an association membership, not insurance. So check out the links. Next, sunspots. Once again, we will have a new group right in here where that 4 is. That'll be 3151. Be the name of that new sunspot group. It looks like it's only alpha class. Let's take a look at the last 24 hours in SDO magnetogram. There will be a new group forming right back here, right there. And here you'll see it form on the continuum imagery. Looks like it's actually beta class. A beta gamma class sunspot group. And here's a zoom out of the full disk. We've got some setting regions there in the northwest. And let's move on to energetic particles. Particles, not sharticles. Although I'm sure there are plenty of sharticles being published right now. Clickbait. There's the ghost proton flux over the past 3 days. Let's take a look at the X-ray profile. No major flares, just a C3.37 in the past 24 hours. And here is the last 24 hours in 1700 angstroms plus 335. Let's switch to 94 angstroms, since it takes 10 images per minute instead of only 2. 94 angstroms there. One of 2 wavelengths specifically formulated for observing solar flares. Continuing on to a star chart. If you're up before dawn, you may see a sliver of a moon up there, just north of the ecliptic. Also, Mars in a setting mode here over Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. The blue line is the galactic plane. The yellow line is the ecliptic. And here is our solar system forecast. This is where things are now. Let's advance it 1 week. There's where things will be in a week. We'll have a crescent waxing. Keep in mind, this imagery is not to scale. Next, looking at some coronagraphs, and we do have some significant CMEs, including one which I believe is earthly directed. So we can expect to see that arrive late in the day on the 23rd, early on the day on the 24th. So early in the day on Wednesday, late in the day on Wednesday, early in the day on Thursday. Anyway, that's yesterday's images. And we'll show you some more detail on that here after we show you today's images. Some additional CMEs there. Those do not look like they're earthly directed. It's the one from yesterday around 1800 hours. So here's a view from Stereo A and Lagrange 1 at Soho Lascaux C3. We've actually paused it here because this one was a double. So if you look at this, there's actually two CMEs happening. There's this one up here, and then there's this one, which is much closer to the solar equator. And that is the one that I believe to be earthly directed. So if we slowly advance this, I believe there is an earthly component in that one there. And it's partially going to remain obscured behind the disk. So you don't see much of an indication of that because it's all behind this disk. In other words, it's headed directly at the spacecraft. And Earth is directly behind that spacecraft, so I believe that is an Earth-directed CME. So again, we expect that late in the day on the 23rd to early in the day to possibly midday on the 24th. Will it cause a worldwide destruction? Will it cause you to need to move into a bunker? Well, absolutely not. It might cause some mid-latitude aurorae, but I doubt even that. Probably something like a KP5 would be the maximum that you could expect to have from it. Let's take a look at some 24-hour videos. I would say nothing beyond a KP5 from that. It's not super dense or super large, but I think there is some ejecta headed Earth's way. We'll zoom out further here just to give you a little bit additional information. You can see Mercury and Venus over there turning the corner, about to return to prograde motion. Great imagery there of some CMEs. And looking at filaments, we still do have a ridiculous number of filaments on the Earth-facing portion of the solar disk. Dozens of filaments certainly facing the Earth here at the moment. The likelihood of additional CMEs remains nearly 100%. They're not going to kill you. They're not going to end civilization, but they might create some great aurorae. We'll be keeping you posted on the channel. So here's 335 angstroms by itself. One of the many species of ionized iron that is covered by the SDO. And let's take a look at the last 2.5 hours from the GOES 16 SUVI. Little prominence happening down here near the South Solar Polar region. And a large prominence rising here. There may be some large active regions rising there in the southeast. See a very large prominence there making its way over the southeastern limb. Let's move to bonus features. We've got some minor charging hazards here for satellites over the Central Pacific Ocean. GOES electron flux here remains kind of low. No real surprise there. It's a feature of coronal hole high-speed streams typically. And there you have NOAA's forecast almost right on. And I was off. I expected the observation to be a little bit lower there yesterday, so you can cite me all you like in the comments for being incorrect with that minor forecast. There's the 1-year chart of the electron flux. And let's take a look at the F layer of the ionosphere, the bridge between Earth and space. So this is the vibrational frequency of what's going on at the F layer. And we're also going to show you the anomalygram because there are some major anomalies. We show it regardless, but lots of low-frequency anomalies here around the equator, around the South Pole, around the North Arctic region. Lots of low-frequency anomalies showing up there on the ionogram. That's anomaly in megahertz from the 30-day median, if you're wondering. If you're worried about people's vibrational frequencies, well, the Earth's is kind of low there, at least in terms of the vibrational frequency at the F layer. Continuing on to look at the total electron content forecast. These are the free electrons between your GPS satellite and your handset as we see continued high electron counts over places like the North Atlantic and North America. Some electrons a little bit out of place there. You can expect to see rather significant GPS errors. And this is typical of having low electron flux, having a little bit disorganized total electron contents. So there's the latest image from the Australian Government Bureau of Meteorology total electron content map. Lots of electrons right now over the African Rift Zone there to the northwest of Madagascar. And it looks like that new sunspot has already evaporated. It's still there, but barely. It is still a beta-gamma class sunspot group. But it has certainly weakened since we did show prep. This group up here, a little bit more interesting. That is beta-gamma delta class, so the likelihood of a flare coming from that one a little bit higher. Here's the rock back for the full disk. And how about one more series of images? Today we'll do the 171 angstroms plus SDO magnetogram. Colorized magnetogram. And that is the data from yesterday plus today. So that, my friends and foes, is where the space weather portion of the video ends and the meteorology segment begins. And we'll start out with a logical transition here. We're going to be transitioning from space weather to Earth weather in a way that makes perfect sense by looking at the nullschool.net space portion, which will show the aurorae. And they're not looking particularly strong. A little bit of a dud as far as this latest coronal hole high-speed stream. This is the way the wind blows. Those are the surface winds of the eastern world. These are the jet streams of the east. Jet streams of the western world are looking like this. Doubled up jet stream over North America, converging over the North Atlantic. Here are the surface winds. Powerful low there, north of Nova Scotia and Newfoundland. Here are the surface winds of the central world. And lastly, the jet streams of the central world. By the way, if you haven't checked out our Hemp Lucid shop, check it out. Do some Christmas shopping. There's a 30-day money-back guarantee. And as you can see there's a save 10% coupon clickable when you go to the shop. You'll find links below the video as well as on the homepage at smashomash.com. All kinds of different products there, including lip balm, great gift ideas. Tell your friends and foes about our shop. It's our latest affiliate/sponsor. Shout out to Hemp Lucid. Thanks for hooking us up, as we needed more affiliates, and this is a great one. Free shipping on orders over $69 as the Black Friday sale continues. Again, links below the video and on the homepage. Also to our merch shop. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Some of the designs might be considered controversial. This one's probably not very controversial at all. It's Universum Liberate, the motto of the Galactic Federation Special Forces. Are you sick of what's going on the planet? What about in the solar system? What about in the interstellar area, the area around the solar system? Are you concerned about the behavior of the entire galaxy? Well, we certainly are. That's why we are promoting the Galactic Federation Special Forces and our motto, which is Universum Liberate. To quote Geddy Lee, if I could wave my magic wand, I'd set everybody free. So some great gift ideas available there at the merch shop. If you click the link, you'll find the items in order of best selling. This one's like our 5th bestseller there, the Galactic Federation Special Forces Seal, the unit patch. The symbolism, by the way, it stands for galactic scale reach at an instantaneous pace, signals strength and security and integrity. And of course, the spiral represents the galaxy itself. Press like, press subscribe, press share if you enjoy the content. Increase the probability that our videos will continue to exist by pressing share. Check out our playlists. There are all kinds of videos besides daily space weather, like driving, riding, and pro tips. What about smashomash.org presents the sun? How about terms defined? Do you know what a sharticle is? If you've never heard of a sharticle, or if you've never heard Joe Biden's explanation of the Second Amendment, make sure you check out the playlists. Yes, playlists. Lots of information there. Press subscribe, press share, press comment. Visit our links. Thanks to everybody who has supported the channel over the past 5 years, pushing 6 years, despite the pathetic, putrid, and disgusting censorship on all big tech platforms. You've been deboosted. There is the clouds and fog over the Americas. Here's your weather.gov map. And we're going to scroll down to show you the key here. It's some windy conditions, high surf around Hawaii, as the winter surf season must have begun in full effect here. If your county's lit, click your county. Or if you're in the water, click your location at weather.gov. So we're looking at temperature anomaly forecasts here. This is the 72-hour GFS temperature anomaly forecast in degrees Celsius. And we'll have a bit of a turnaround for a large portion of the country from after this huge cold snap that we had, bringing temperatures down to about 20 degrees here in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. And let's take a look at the 72-hour positive snow depth change forecast in inches. And some additional snows here coming especially to Idaho, but also Washington and Oregon and Montana and Colorado and Wyoming and Utah and Nevada. Also a little bit for Minnesota, New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine. That's a 72-hour positive snow depth change forecast. And let me just show you something here, because I see a lot of nonsense on YouTube. So I'd just like to address some of the YouTube nonsense once again. If you want to see some nonsense, realize that people are not able to forecast the weather 4 days in advance. This is why we don't show 2-week forecasts on the channel, because they're nonsense. And so look at the forecast here. Forecasting for 4 feet of snow for parts of Wyoming. And that's not to mean it couldn't happen. However, these forecasts tend to be off by a lot, which is why we don't show forecasts like that. We draw the line at 72 hours because those are accurate. We don't promote fear-mongering and nonsense on the channel. Remember, folks, humans are not able to forecast the weather accurately to about 4 days. What do you think about 40 years? You think they're accurate with that? Let us know in the comments what you think. So there's the 2-week forecast, and just wanted to show you how insane that gets. Here's the forecast that we're comfortable with, 72 hours. Continuing on, to cite more facts, this is where pressure cells currently are located. Alaska completely encased in low pressure, and this powerful low here north of Newfoundland is stirring up the North Atlantic. High pressure dominating most of the U.S. at the moment. Next to our NASA Goes Lightning Mapper, Texas had some lightning. And let's see if we have any current terrestrial strikes. Looks pretty calm. No terrestrial strikes over the U.S. Next time you hear thunder, check it out, lightningmaps.org. If you've got sensors in your area, you might find it very interesting. There's some Turkish lightning going off right now. And let's continue on to our closing segment. It's the U.S. Doppler radar map. That's where things are now. We'll focus on the lower 48. Here is clouds and fog. And there is water vapor. Temperatures are going to climb, folks. The cold snap has temporarily ended here. Here's your recap, U.S. Doppler radar. Shortwave radiation satellite showing clouds and fog. And water vapor satellite. That's where we'll have to close things out. Once again, thanks for tuning in to the Smash News Network, Least Busted Name in News. I'll have been your host, Dan, a.k.a. Smash-O-Mash, signing off from the Smash News Network, Least Busted Name in News.